Sebastian from the Metal Gods Meltdown, and this evening I'm joined by...
Hi, I'm Tim Atkinson, the bass player from Leader of Down.
I'd like to say the Screwtape Letters is an addictive, old-school rocking album. I actually really love it. Can't get enough of it. Are you getting anxious or impatient waiting for its release?
Well, first of all, Sebastian, I'm glad you like it. That's a good start, isn't it, to any interview? Yeah, we're really looking forward to it. It's only a few weeks now till it sort of hits the shops, as it were. We finished it quite a while ago, but obviously with all the lockdowns and all this other stuff, the record company wanted to delay the release. So it's strange because we've been living with the album for a while, and of course when everyone finally hears it, it's the first time they've heard it. So we're obviously keen to see what people think, but we're really pleased with it, and I think some good tracks on there, and yeah, hopefully everyone likes it.
Excellent. Hitman was released not so long ago. I mean, what's the feedback been like with that so far?
It's been really, really good. We're getting a lot of airplay. Everyone seems to really like it, all the feedback we've had. And, we just felt that was quite a good sort of lead single for the record. And we were lucky enough to get Dennis Stratton on there as well, ex-Iron Maiden. So that always helps a bit as well. So that was a lot of fun.
That's amazing. I was going to ask you, actually, do you think if you do, when you do get out on tour, will you be playing festivals around the UK? And is there a chance that Dennis will appear sometime, do you think?
Well, I'll give you a bit of an exclusive. We've got a festival in Essex on the 8th of April, which happens to be the day of the release of the album.
Right.
And Dennis is going to come and join us for 3 songs at that one.
Oh,
well, obviously one of them being Hitman.
okay.
So when I was talking to Dennis about it, he said, well, I can't just come up for 1 song. You've got to give me at least 3.
Yeah.
So he's coming up for 3 songs. So that'll be good. He played with us before when we were on tour in the UK with Phil Campbell and the Bastard Sons. One of the shows on that tour was in Norwich. And Dennis joined us for a couple of songs on that one as well. So it'll be good fun to get him back on stage with him again.
Excellent. That was my Bengal cat. Sorry, she just meowed. Did you hear it?
I heard a funny noise. Was that what it was? Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, it's my Bengal cat. I don't kick my cat though, but yeah.
Well,
okay.
I'm a West Ham supporter, Sebastian. So I was quite embarrassed and appalled with that, really. But there we go.
Okay. The Screwtape Letters is an interesting title. You've been asked this loads, I expect, but what does it actually mean?
Well, basically what it is, it's the title of a book by C.S. Lewis, the Narnia author. He wrote this book. I don't know if you've seen it at all before, but it's basically a series of letters from a junior devil asking for advice from a senior devil.
Right. And
there's no narration. It's just one letter, and then you get the answer, and then another letter and the answer. And it was given to me by my dad when I was about 14. My dad was a priest, a vicar. And I was already into heavy rock and everything at that age. And I think if he was going to give me a sort of, so we say, religious book as a present, he was probably struggling to think of anything that I might be bothered to read. So that's what I got. And I always remembered that. And I always thought it was a really good title. And when Wurzel was alive, we often talked about sort of obscure things and, unusual titles and funny books we may have read. And that was one that we actually spoke about at one point. And I just always liked the title, and it just sort of seemed quite a nice little thing to call the album. And again, as you've said, I have been asked hundreds of times about the title already, but that's a good thing, because if it was just called Come On or something, no one would even ask. But I've always been one to try and have something a bit interesting.
Yeah.
Because I think then people, if they're interested in the band, look into it a little bit more.
Absolutely, mate.
And that's really where it came from.
Real. I mean, my personal favourite track today is Whiskey Preacher, which is yours today, and why? You're probably sick of hearing the album by now, like you said.
No. I deliberately actually, just before Hitman came out, I decided not to listen to it for a while. Right. So it was going to be a bit fresher when we were ready to, for rehearsals again for live shows, but also for, listening to it again when everyone else was listening to it. So Whiskey Preacher's a funny one because that's slightly different on the album. It's a bit more of it's a different groove than some of the other tracks.
Mm.
But again, the title of that we quite liked as well. You know, it really could be about anybody. You know, it's one of those sort of someone who's a bit drunk giving you a load of advice you don't really want type thing.
Yeah.
So for me, I quite like Holloway Motel.
Yeah.
It's funny though, because obviously being involved with most of the writing of the tracks, there's certain ones that when you're doing it, they're more personal.
Yeah.
So Holloway Motel was written about the motel that we used to stay in Los Angeles when we were doing recording with Lemmy, or waiting for Lemmy to decide when he could do the recording, and you know, in between things. And I spent a lot of time in that motel, like months literally, and it really did become. I'm still here, crumbs. So that's quite a personal one because it's a real place, and I was there. So I don't know, that's definitely one of my favourites, that's for certain. But I think they're all pretty strong, and I'm not just saying it because you know it's the band, you know, but I think it's a bit more of a consistent record from our first one because we were able to record it all in one go, as opposed to the first one, which we recorded all over the world and different people contributing. This was the normal, the band, we've written the songs, let's go in the studio, record it in one set period of time. So it sort of developed possibly along the way, along the lines of how most records do, should we say.
Yeah. So you sort of touched on about a few dates. Is there a plan to do a full tour? And I hopeful to get over to mainland Europe. I mean, obviously avoiding Ukraine.
Yeah, we'll probably avoid that. Well, we've got April. We've got another show in May with Phil Campbell in Blackpool. We're going to do a few UK shows in July. And then we're already getting shows for 2023, but we are planning in the autumn and winter to get over to mainland Europe. We desperately want to get back to Germany in particular, because we've always gone down well there, and you know, it's great fun. It's just been so difficult, obviously, with all the pandemic. Even though fingers crossed it's sort of coming to a close, it's created this sort of backlog of everything. Everyone wants to be out playing, and of course, there's only so much money people have got to go and see people, and only so many nights of the week that are there for them to go out. So yeah, but you know, by the end of the year, we should have got back to mainland Europe.
That sounds really good, man. So I've got lots of friends in Belgium. I go to lots of festivals in Belgium. Well, I did go to lots of festivals in Belgium before lockdown, and it is a different vibe and groove over there, and it's so much cheaper as well, and the beer's better.
Yeah.
So
Beer's great. Yeah. But it almost seems about 15 years ago that we were doing all that. You know, even though it was only a couple of years ago, it really does.
It does feel like another lifetime, man. Absolutely, it really does. Okay, then. So, how has this horrendous COVID affected you in the band? And I mean, has it given you more time to write and think of ideas? And has it given you any inspirations for the next album, even?
I mean, first of all, you know, we had numerous tours booked or being arranged, and they were postponed, and then they were rearranged without anyone knowing we'd even booked them. You know, it wasn't, we didn't even announce stuff, and then they've been changed. And then again with the record, it was supposed to be coming out sort of 10 months ago, and then the record company said no, and then there was the delay with things such as like the wax they use in the vinyl. There's been a worldwide shortage and all that. So, you know, our record, this one, has been in the pressing plant for the vinyl for about 10 months. You know, I mean, and this is all COVID related with deliveries and everything else. So, you know, it's been very frustrating. But, you know, luckily, touch wood, I personally didn't get it. Our singer got it, but the rest of the band have been fine. And obviously, it gives you time to reflect on things, and obviously, there's a lot of people far worse off than we've been. You know, a lot of people obviously lost their lives, etc. But we have been. It gave us a little bit more time just to make sure we've got everything ready. So we've filmed 5 videos, for example, for this record. We've done lots of other little sort of advertising videos and interview videos that we've got ready that will come out as you know, the promo and stuff for the album happens. And then we also started slowly cobbling together a few ideas and bits and pieces for album number 3.
Yeah.
And different inspirations. I was very aware that sometimes when you're writing lyrics, especially because I do the majority of the lyrics for Leader of Down, is that I didn't want to get into like a track called Lockdown Blues or something like that, just because of how people were feeling at that time. Not there's anything wrong with that, but I didn't really want to get into that. So I've been trying very hard. Any ideas I've got aren't necessarily related to lockdown, which of course gives you its own problems because that's all you're thinking about, isn't it?
Absolutely. Okay, so the last COVID sort of question. If you were stuck in quarantine for a week, which musicians, dead or alive, would you have with you?
Oh, blimey. Can I have more than one?
Yeah, go on then.
Right, I'd love to have Wurzel back,
yeah,
for a week. That would be fantastic. Obviously, Lemmy would be amazing, but I'd never met Freddie Mercury, and I'd love to have a week with him, asking him a few questions. And I'm sure if Wurzel was with me there, he'd have a whole sheet of questions to ask Freddie Mercury, which would be amazing.
That's excellent. And do you think like Wurzel would have approved of the new album?
Yeah, I mean, I've been asked that a fair bit actually, and one of the things that it got me thinking about things, and really the best way to explain it is normally when I'm writing something, a lot of bits and pieces have come from stuff that me and Wurzel did initially. So we probably had sort of riff ideas or basic parts of songs for probably 50 or 60 tracks that we'd been working on, not finished, just bits and pieces. And I sort of finished those or add bits that we did together into a track that I've done or I've done with Alex Ward, our guitarist. And so that whilst that's happening, it's always quite emotional when I'm listening to little cassettes or little bits we recorded on phones, just ideas. And I'm always thinking, would you like it? In my head, I'm going, Wurzel, would you like this? Would you like this? Yeah. And when we're recording in the studio, I often go outside the studio sort of complex and I'm just standing there looking up thinking, right, which solo are we going to choose? You've got to help me. But then I often think back to things like lyrics and stuff, and Wurzel will say, I don't want to write them. You write them. You do it. And quite often, if we were talking about whether we liked something, he'd often say, well, what do you think? He'd throw it back at me. He'd say, it's not down to me. You choose. So I know he'd probably be, if he was still here, it would be all of this going, and we were like a couple of old women sort of arguing. No, I don't mind. You go, darling. You did. It was a bit like that. All in jest and stuff. But it would be exactly like that. And what we said when we started the band, the general idea was, obviously we didn't want to sound like a Motörhead copy or anything like that. But there's a lot of elements of Motörhead, as Lemmy said many times, that are rock and roll type feel rather than straight out sort of heavy metal. And we always really wanted to sound like some of the more obviously catchy Motörhead songs. So I don't know if you know a song called All For You from the rock and roll album. There's a song called Too Good to Be True from March or Die. They're almost like
about that, wow. yeah.
Do you know those songs? Yeah. So they're should we say maybe more obviously catchy. I mean, Motörhead songs are very catchy anyway, but more obviously catchy. And of course, because our singer Matt Baker doesn't sound like Lemmy, we didn't want him to sound like Lemmy. It sort of gives a different feel to that type of song, and that was always the general idea. So I've tried to make sure that we carry on in that way as we sort of get people are getting used to how we sound and sort of developing, shall we say, the Leader of Down sound. So yeah.
Right. So going way back in time, you have to be honest. What was the first album you ever owned?
Well, I borrowed quite a few,
right?
But the first one I ever actually bought with my own money was Iron Fist by Motörhead.
That was my birthday present.
Oh, there we go. I was given like a Disney LP as a present when I was younger, but the first one I ever bought with my own money was Iron Fist.
Right, that was my birthday present when I was 12 or 11. But I still got it.
Oh, good man. It was funny as well. I was talking. I had dinner with my cousin the other week, who I hadn't seen for years, and sort of met her family who I hadn't met before, which was really lovely. But I was reminding them of a story because our grandma, you know, her grandma as well. One year, she asked me what I wanted for Christmas, and I wanted the Motörhead Killed by Death picture disc for Christmas. And so she wrote it all down. And when she went to the record shop, she didn't want to ask, have you got Killed by Death by Motörhead? So she'd written it on a piece of paper and she handed it over to the shop assistant because she didn't actually want to say the words Killed by Death because it's a different generation. But yeah, so I got all them involved. I used to make her listen to all the Motörhead songs when I was little.
That's amazing. Okay, if you could choose someone to narrate your life, who would it be?
To narrate my life? Oh, crumbs.
Yeah, like Tom Baker or something like that.
Oh, that's a good question, Sebastian. I've always liked Kenneth Williams' voice, just because it's quite amusing, you know. But yeah, maybe something like that, or Stephen Fry or something. He always is a nice listen. He's got a good voice. But I also wouldn't want them to play me if there was a film. I don't think Kenneth Williams would be right. But yeah, it would be good in narrating, I think.
Awesome. Okay. Can you give me 4 words to describe the Screwtape Letters?
4 words. Oh, crumbs. Catchy,